Hey everyone, you're making great progress in the course, and we are now moving on to step 6 of 7. We are moving from capital into scaling. So let's review where we are at so far. We started out with the first few lessons on prep work for defining your unit economics, your CAC and LTV. Then we went into outbound prospecting, particularly effective for B2B SaaS growth. Then we went into paid advertising and how to scale up your revenue from, say, 1 million, 2 million up to 5, 10, 15 million and beyond. Then we started talking about how to build out product-led growth, organic search, and marketing automation in the inbound section. In the last step, capital, we talked about revenue-based financing, angel capital, venture capital, and whether you even need capital at all. And now in step 6, we're going into scaling. You've raised the capital you need either through revenue-based financing or venture financing through equity capital, and or just continue to grow through customer acquisition and reinvestments in growth. And now you're ready to build a professionalized team to take you from 10 million to 20 to 40 to 50 and beyond so that you can get ready for your 9-figure exit. So we are going into the systems building section of the course and the sales and success section of the course. So let's jump in. So lesson 19, scaling the sales process. So in the first, say, 1 to 2 million of a company's ARR, it's really about founder-led sales. You don't usually have enough money to hire a sales team at this point or spend a lot on advertising. And so you're doing a lot of growth hacking and a lot of founder-led sales. You're doing things like SEO, inbound content creation, getting on the phone, going to visit potential customers, whatever you have to do to get that first $1 million in the door. I remember going door to door to restaurants on Franklin Street in Chapel Hill in 2002 and 2003 to get our first 20 customers, putting literal fish bowls at restaurants' point of sales to collect business cards that we would then send a group of college students to type up and turn into email newsletter subscribers for these companies. We would even do their email newsletters, and we would do this all for $50 a month to get our first 20 customers. So you have to do things that don't scale in order to get to a point where you can do things that do scale. And now, once you get to 1 to 2 million in ARR, now it's time to do things that do scale so that you can build a system that doesn't go home at night. So you can go home at night and you can take time off and have your business continue to grow. You want to work on your business, not in your business, as Michael Gerber says, and that is what this section is about. So now let's talk about product-led sales and outbound sales and how to build a sales organization. As you grow from founder-led sales into sales-led sales and scalable sales and marketing, you need a team, you need systems, and you need processes. That is what we're going to talk about here, how to formalize your sales organization and how to set it up appropriately, depending on whether you're a B2C company or a B2B company that has either an SMB, a mid-market, or an enterprise focus. As a reminder, SMB is about $50 a month. Mid-market's about $500 a month, and enterprise, say is anything north of, let's say $2,000 or $3,000 a month. So this is a reminder of the various roles of marketing, sales, and success. We're going to be talking about the role of sales primarily in this section, but let's recap. So it's the role of the marketing department and of the SDRs, which are often managed by the sales team, but in some cases also work in the early stages of lead gen, to generate the awareness, the interest, and the desire. They aid the sales org. And in this case, by the sales org, I mean the sales executives or the account executives that actually close the deals and get the customer, the prospect, to take action. So it's the role of the sales department to generate the action, and it's the role of the customer success, aka account management team, to retain and expand the deal size over time through added seats, added functionality, and added product offerings through either internal R&D or external M&A. So this together creates what we call it SaasRise, not the ADA formula, but the ADARE formula: attention, interest, desire, action, retention, and expansion. And you can think of it as the full funnel of revenue generation inside of a company. We coined this term here at SaasRise a few months ago, and it's just taking the ADA acronym from marketing, the classic one created over 100 years ago, and adding in the role of customer success, which is retention and expansion, such that your NRR is ideally above 100%. And every single month, the amount of upgrades and upsells and cross-sells is higher than the amount of downgrades and cancellations. So there are various sales styles for various market segments depending on how much you charge. There's the consumer segment where your CAC and ARPA are low, less than $50. There's the SMB segment where perhaps your ARPA is anywhere from $40 to $1,000 a month. The mid-market, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. And then the enterprise, which I consider the monthly revenue, could be anywhere from what would I call enterprise? Anywhere from probably $25,000 a year and up. So anywhere from $2,000 a month and up, I would consider sort of mid-market going into enterprise. And you can see here what's normal in terms of lifetime value, monthly account churn for these various segments. And there's going to be different sales styles, of course. So as you move up market, you're going to move from what might be more normally a freemium or a self-service or product-led growth to an inbound sales system where you're just following up with the leads that come in, to an outbound sales system that's proactively reaching out in the mid-market and enterprise, to even a cold calling system and even a field sales system in the largest sector going after large Fortune 500 or Global 2000 companies. At iContact, we started out as an SMB email marketing platform that charged between $10 and $500 a month. And then we increased our revenue over time through expanded LTV through our mid-market offerings. We started out with a 15-day free trial on a self-service product, a very PLG heavy product. But after 6 years and reaching our first 25,000 SMB customers, we decided to add in a higher priced offering with pretty much the same product, a few extra features. But you got a shared account manager, and we ended up launching a product we called iContact Enterprise at an average ACV of about $20,000. Over the next 4 years, we built up a sales team from about 3 people to 60 people, and we signed up around 1,000 of these enterprise clients, adding an extra $20 million a year to our top line revenue. We, of course, had to create an entirely new sales process suitable for the mid-market and an entirely new sales organization structure to sell this higher priced product. It's very different selling a $50 product on a 15-day trial versus a $1,000 or $1,500 product where you need to do demos and follow up with people for a while and influence multiple stakeholders. So we brought in the SVP of sales from Kevin Fitzgerald, who was at the time from Channel Advisor, now is with Tatango, to build up our mid-market sales org at iContact. So in an SMB sales process that's PLG focused, you go from visitor to trial to automated follow-ups using your CRM tool on LinkedIn, on SMS, and on email, and on ads, to eventually a customer. The sales cycle length is usually less than 30 days. Of course, the e-commerce or B2C sector, consumer sector is even less. Usually the sales cycle there is 1 to 5 days. And then in the mid-market or enterprise sales process, the sales cycle length could be 1 month up to even a year or more. And that goes through the more traditional visitor to lead to demo to SQL, MQL to SQL to contract to onboarding sequence. So what did we do at iContact in terms of our team? Well, we had about 60 people, 30 SDRs, sales development reps, that these were warm SDRs that followed up with the inbound leads that we paid through paid advertising. But you can also have cold SDRs. We didn't have any at iContact because our ACV wasn't high enough at only about 10,000 a year for these mid-market clients. But we could have perhaps added some cold SDRs to do a little bit of outbound. Then we had 25 AEs, account executives or sales executives, and 15 account managers who managed the revenue. You want to have about 1 account manager for every 1 to 2 million in ARR that you have. You can see the actual org chart here when we had those folks working in the sales organization, between 60 and 70 people at our peak out of the 250 total people in the company. So 1 out of every 4 people inside the company by the time we sold was a salesperson or an account manager. How do we comp this? Well, this was 13 years ago. So because of inflation, you'll need to, maybe add another 25% onto this. But in the US, in North Carolina, we paid at the time $55,000 a year total for our SDRs, $75,000 a year total for our sales executives who were a little bit more experienced. And that was where we would promote our successful SDRs to after 12 to 18 months. And then about $60K a year for our account managers who were more farmers than hunters. So the sales execs earn the most. And that's in most companies, you'll see sales execs earn much more, almost sometimes double. Now, in some companies, you'll see SDRs outsourced, and you'll see them earning a lot less. You could get SDRs using Wing Assistant for $1,700 a month full time out of the Philippines. Or you could get SDRs out of South Africa for $2,700 a month using Recruit. That's ROO Crute, CRUIT.com. That's where we hire our SDRs from. You get a really experienced native English speaker from South Africa with software sales experience for about $2,700 a month. Can't beat that. And then on the other side, you could see sales executives in mid-market or enterprise companies earning these days as much as 150 to 200K a year for the ones that are really, really successful. So it just depends on whether you want to take the low cost route and outsource or take the higher cost route and higher quality route and insource. When we were acquired, we had about 60 people in sales, as you can see here, 25 SDRs, 20 AMs, and 15 SEs. And this was an example sales and marketing organization chart. And you can click the source deck if you want to see some zoomed in additional flow charts and org charts. This was the full expanded sales and marketing org chart where you can see the roles of the various elements in blue, which were under the CMO for marketing, and the various elements in orange, which were under the CRO. Chief Revenue Officer Kevin Fitzgerald managed everything on the right, and our CMO, Keith Moore, managed everything on the left. So this is a common structure of where you're going. Now let's zoom into the right side here, the orange, and let's zoom in and see these various roles. So there's basically 5 roles you want to look at. You want to look at your outbound SDRs who are doing cold outreach, your inbound SDRs, which are doing warm outreach to follow up with the leads that come in, your account executives who are basically just doing meetings all day long on Zoom and following up on the demos to close, your account managers who are farming the revenue that comes in that to get it to grow. If you can get someone who's at 1,000 a month up to 1,200 a month, that's a good indication of success for a client. So you want to see them growing over time so that your NR is higher than 100. And then lastly, the BDRs. You might have 2 or 3 BDR partnerships folks, business development reps who work on building the reseller partner program, recruit agency partners and channel partners. And you can see some of the on-target execution OTE comp range for either outsourced individuals, and by outsourced I mean non-US. That could be Eastern Europe, that could be South Africa, that could be Philippines, Honduras, Mexico, or the US/Western Europe pricing. Usually you'll have the highest cost in the US, and then the lowest cost in places like Philippines, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Eastern Europe, etc. And then how much is base salary versus variable? Your highest variable comp is going to be on the AE side. These guys are hunters and they need to be comped every time they close a deal. And you can see what is sort of a good goal for each of these types of reps. You can look at your outbound SDRs based on how many qualified demos they source per week. Inbound SDRs based on how many demos they source per week. They're going to need to do more because they're getting warm leads fed to them. The AEs based on how much new ARR they close per year. Rule of thumb, you want between 500 and 1 million in new ARR per year. So between, 125,000 and 250,000 in new ARR per AE per quarter. Particularly, especially if you're paying US prices, it can be lower if you're paying outsourced prices. You want that to be about 5x their total comp. So if their total comp's 200K a year, they need to be bringing in 1 million a year in new ARR. If their total comp is outsourced and maybe they're only 50K a year, well, then they probably only need to bring in 250K a year in new ARR. So you can use that 5x formula of total comp to new ARR to be able to establish your comp plan. Keep it simple. With AMs, sometimes known as CSMs, customer success managers or account managers, here your goal should be between 1 million and 2 million in revenue managed per AM, and at least 90% net revenue retention, ideally 100%. If you can get over 100%, you'll be able to build a great company and really put a lot of money into growth and advertising. And then lastly, your goal for your BDR should be about 1 million in new partner ARR per year per BDR. So that is how to structure your comp plans. You're going to need a head of sales. You're going to need a CRL to really move beyond founder-led sales, but hopefully this will give you some guidelines. So if you target SMBs, less than 5,000 ACV, you really wouldn't need the AEs or the AMs or the outbound efforts. And if you're larger than 100K ACV and you want to add field sales to this diagram, you can, as that usually tends to work quite well there. All right, so how do we think about AE comp structure? Well, as we just spoke about, just to review, the general formula for an AE comp is about 50% base, 50% variable, it's account executive. And you want their variable pay equal to 10% of their new ARR they generate, but paid out quarterly. And you want their total comp, OTE total comp, to be equal to 20% of the new ARR they generate. So that's where you get the 5X rule of thumb from. So just to recap, as I've just said, if you are using an AE who earns $50,000 per year, they got to bring in at least $250K per year to justify that comp. If you're using US-based AEs earning $200K a year, all in, then they need to be bringing in $1 million in ARR. I've recapped this here because it's that important. You want to do the math on your AEs. In fact, pause this video if you have AEs right now, do the math, and make sure your AEs are generating at least 5 times their total comp in new ARR each year. If they're not, they should be. And if you've had people on for more than 6 months that aren't, you should let them go and find some new ones. Compassionately open up their future to new opportunities. KPIs for B2B sales, you can see on the screen. Your head of sales should be tracking all these. You can even put these on KPI dashboards, like on a Gecko board that you could put on a TV monitor in your office or in your, wherever you work. And as you expand out your sales org, you want to be able to hire a head of sales that can manage all these and track all of them. Now, of course, the most important KPI is the number of new deals closed per quarter and the amount of new ARR closed per quarter. But these are all early indicators of success to allow you to manage your pipeline. And the larger your deals are, whether you're in the mid-market or enterprise, the more you're going to need to do outbound. I've never seen a successful enterprise company that doesn't do outbound. And in fact, many enterprise companies I know of, 75, 85% of their sales are from outbound prospecting. Starts out cold, but then becomes warm over time as you stay in touch with them, as you do audience matching on various ad networks, as you do emails, even send FedEx packages, or even do field visits for those with the high enough ACV. You can build these lists, as we mentioned in the marketing section in this course, using tools like ZoomInfo, Apollo.io, Seamless.ai, RockerReach, Lucia, Listkit, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Crunchbase, Instantly, and so many more tools. And then even using Instantly, you can send out these emails yourself. So we have spoken a lot about outbound prospecting. We have a whole section in this course about outbound prospecting. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a good time to go back and go through that. It will help you. If you have an ACV north of $5,000, you'll want to do outbound sales. Now, the growth magic comes when you combine outbound and inbound. By inbound, I mean free leads and then any leads that are coming in where it's not a cold outbound reach out. So for B2B SaaS companies, we usually see about 25 to 50% of the leads coming in from highly targeted outbound reach outs, usually via email and LinkedIn, sometimes phone if you're large enough, or ringless voicemail, to prospects that fit the ideal ICP, and even higher for enterprise B2B SaaS companies. So it tends to work well where the ACV is 5K or higher, and you need at least $5,000 per year so that there's enough margin to cover the cost of doing the research, reaching out, and making a sale. Now, one asterisk here, we've made outbound work at SaasRise where our cost for our revenue per year per customer is $2,400. But here's how we did that. There's a big asterisk on it. We have a $197 a month membership. You know that if you're part of SaasRise. And we offer a 14-day free trial, and then it's $197 a month. And when you multiply 197 times 12, you get about $2,350. So our initial ACV is about $2,350 per member. However, we've gotten good at upselling a portion of our members, usually around 3%, 2 to 3% of our members buy something else, like our $25,000 or $30,000 exit consulting packages or fundraising consulting packages, or perhaps our ads management packages that are about the same price points. And so long story short, we've been able to increase our average revenue per account, our ARPA, from what started out at $197, and it can even go up as high as an average now is actually about $850 per customer once you add in all those bigger $30,000 a month customers. and the people, paying $5,000 a month for implementation in a done with you program in a course like this. So we've been able to create an LTV an ACV of about $10,000 after the upsell. And so that's why we've been able to make outbound work at SaasRise. We're also doing it at a very high volume. We're reaching out to about 400,000 SaaS CEOs every single month through our efforts. So read more about ABM. We talk a lot about this. If you're systematizing your sales org and you have mid-market or enterprise clients, you really need to be doing account-based marketing. And make sure you're doing digital ads to provide air cover to your sales org. Read this article on our blog, ABM Advertising, How to Show Ads to Your Exact ICP, and go through the section of this course on doing retargeting ads, on doing matched audience ads to make sure you're providing air cover to your sales org. You want to make sure you're doing hyper-targeted digital ads to pave the way for your sales team's success. So the army of your sales team is going out where your brand is already well known and is fully omnipresent so that they can serve your company the best by going after leads that already have heard about you. So what successful SaaS firms know, there's 6 things. That they know their unit economics, their CAC, their churn, the lifespan, the LTV. They know that CAC-based scaling of paid advertising across Meta, LinkedIn, Google, Bing, AdRoll, affiliates, review sites, paid search, display, lookalike, matched, etc. All that we talk about in the SaaS growth system, they know how to do that. They've set up their SDR, their AE, and the AM sales system, what we've talked about today. If they're in mid-market enterprise, they've set up their ABM outbound reach out lists with either an internal or outsourced SDR team that reaches out to, per rep, at least 1,000 prospects per day via email, calling, and LinkedIn. If you're in B2B, you need to be reaching out to about 30,000 prospects a month to succeed. Cold reach outs, and then combining that with a matched audience campaign on Meta, LinkedIn, Google, AdRoll, etc., so that those people have air cover. As a successful SaaS firm, how to use omnipresence digital ads to provide this air cover, and you are using your account management team to get your NRR above 100% to focus on upsells and cross-sells and upgrades, where your revenue churn and cancellations and downgrades is more than offset by the upgrades. If you can do these 6 things, you will scale your revenue beyond 10, 15, 20 million and get over the churn plateau that many SaaS companies face that don't know how to do scalable paid advertising. So continue this process, do the work, transition from founder-led sales. Here's a case study here from Bessemer Venture Partners of Teleport of how they did founder-led sales. Read these case studies when you get a chance in the deck, and then apply this methodology of turning strangers into evangelizers through an integrated sales and marketing organization that focuses on driving scalable revenue by setting up your marketing department the right way and setting up your sales department the right way. And then put in place the right KPIs on the sales side, which we showed you earlier, and the right KPIs that are shown here on the screen on the marketing side. If you do that, you will run a science-driven, scalable growth machine, and you will get to 20 million in ARR. You will get to 40 million in ARR if you keep at it, and run your sales and marketing org like a mathematical machine. Create the content, build the systems, put in place the team to execute what we're talking about in this video, and you will grow. And if we can help you in any way, please reach out. I'm Ryan at SaasRise.com. I'm on Slack. I'm on WhatsApp. I'm in the community here at my.saasrise.com. Please message me if I can help support you in a fundraise, in scaling up your ad spend in a profitable way, or in exit consulting for your company. On the sales comp side, here are a few example comp plans. This is a VP of sales comp plan. You can grab these templates and utilize them. You want to pay these out quarterly, and you want your total VP sales, if it's an American, making around 300 to 400K a year, depending on performance. If it's outsourced, maybe half that. And you'll want to make sure you look at base salary, quota, commission rate, variable pay, and on-target earnings. And here's some rules of thumb we've already mentioned here, but just to recap. Standard commission is 10%, but don't pay a commissions flat on revenue. Set a quota of a certain amount of ARR per quarter, about 125 to 250K per and new ARR per quarter per AE, and then set a comp plan where you pay out a quota based on the achievement of that exact number. So in constructing the on-target execution versus sales exec, do that 50-50 split as we've spoken about. And the typical quota, the typical variable pay is going to be about, the typical target for new ARR needs to be 10 times the base salary or 5 times the total salary. So here's some rules of thumb here. For more detail, read this article from 2020 from David Sachs. Simple math to set up a sales team, how to structure quotas, comp, and territories for a new sales team. It's one of the best in the field of setting this up. And here's some examples from an American audience of how to set up base and quota and on-target execution. You can divide these figures by 4 to set up a quarterly comp plan, and or divide the figures by 2 or 3 if you're not doing American salaries. So it will take 3 to 4 or even 5 months to hit full productivity of your new sales reps. So you will have some upfront cost. And you'll want to divide up your leads and create a system to divide up your leads either by location, geography, or by verticals, by round robin, which is basically just random, or by the size of the deal and giving your best deals to your best reps. There's a lot of detail I'm going through here relatively quickly that is in the slide deck. After you finish this video, go back through the slide deck and read all this text. I don't want to read it all now, but read all this text and then take what you've learned from it and implement it in your company in the next 2 quarters, and you will see the difference inside your organization. Here are 6 key sales metrics you'll want your head of sales to track and track visibly. Your actual reps that you have active versus the planned reps that you have in your annual budget, the percentage of your reps at 100% of quarterly quota. Never let anyone stay under 80% for more than 4 to 5 months. The average number of months for a new rep to reach 100% of quota, usually 3 to 5 months. The average quota attainment percentage, that should be right around 100%. If it's a little less than 100%, you either have too high of a quota, or you have reps that simply aren't doing very well. And you can always benchmark what your quota should be by looking at the average performance of, say, your top 50% of reps. So your top 50% of reps, their average performance, that is a good way to set the quota. And then what you do is you constantly upgrade reps by letting go of anyone who isn't at 80 to 90% of quota after 4 to 5 months. And then, obviously paying the people more that go above quota. Your average rep productivity, which is new ARR per rep per quarter. And then finally, average rep productivity by band of tenure. Here's some visualizations of what that might look like. You can see here in brown or beige, dark brown here, the number of reps in, say, a budget versus the number of actual reps hired. You want to track that. You want to track the quota versus plan. You'll want to track the average new ARR booked per quarter per rep. You can see here it went from 110,000 to 160,000. So times 4 is, from 440,000 up to about 700,000 a year. Anything above 500,000 a year, new ARR per rep is good. And then you'll want to sort of see how that improves over time. Usually the reps that have the longest tenure should perform the best. You'll also want to track new ARR per rep per quarter, color code it, so that you can sort of make easy decisions about hiring and firing. Obviously here, Fred has never hit quota and Sarah has never hit quota. They frankly should have been let go after 2 quarters. If you have a rep that's been with you for 2 quarters and hasn't hit quota, they need to be let go. If they're at 90%, fine. But if they're at less than 90% of quota or less than 80% of quota, you should let them go and make room for new people and new talent and free up their future for new possibilities. So do your funnel math, look at each part of your funnel from leads to MQLs to SQLs to opportunities to close deals. And remember when we did the marketing math that each small improvements in each step of the conversion funnel can make big improvements in terms of the number of closed deals. And you can back into the number of MQLs you need your marketing and SDR team to generate by multiplying your number of closed deals times your conversion rate, or 1 divided by your conversion rate, and that'll give you the number of MQLs that you need to hit your quota so that you know how much to spend on SDR outreach and ad spend. And lastly, you want your CFO or head of finance to model the impact of not only 1 new sales rep, but maybe you're going to hire 5 or 10 new sales reps next year or even more. We hired 60 in total at eye contact. So they can reduce your profits in year one, but ideally will start making money for you in year 2, 3, and 4, and can be very profitable in the out years. So that is the end of this section on scaling sales and building a sales machine. I hope it was helpful to you. In the next lesson, we'll talk about landing and expanding. I hope you're doing well. Lots of love from Austin, Texas.